Okay, good morning, Heidi. How are you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm sorry that we had such a difficult time at, helping me out in fixing the problem I'm having here on Zoom. But anyway, I sent you a list of some questions that we are going to talk about. And this time we're going to talk only about immigration matters. I'll try to stay on topic, but immigration matters, but random. Maybe next time we have a meeting, we can talk about SRRD or what's the other one? A13 or C13? What is it for married for those married to Filipinos?
It's called a 13A spousal visa.
13A.
Yes.
13A. Yeah.
Yes.
So, but now this is just a random question.
Mhm.
Most of these questions come from my viewers, so I figured I had some answers. There are some that I'm not sure of, but I thought it's best for them to hear it from the professional, the person who is actually involved on a day-to-day basis on these matters. But before we get started, could you first introduce yourself to the viewers?
Okay, sure. My name is Heidi Cajes. I am the co-owner of C&G Consulting. We are basically, I want to call it a one-stop shop for expats and foreigners who come here to the Philippines, including former Filipinos who want to get their dual citizenship back here in the Philippines. So we cater to immigration services and business registration. So we also help people start their business here in the Philippines.
Are you located in Manila?
We're located in both Cebu and Manila, but we operate nationwide. So wherever you are in the Philippines, we can basically arrange for you to get your visa regardless of your location.
But the contact information at the end of this video that I will provide the viewers is where? Manila?
You can do both actually, or Cebu. Cebu is our headquarters actually. We started in Cebu.
Okay, so maybe you can send it to me and I'll put it on the video, okay?
Sure, thanks.
Okay. So one of the frequent questions I'm getting is who is required to get an ACR, which is the Alien Certificate of Registration? Who is required to have that?
Okay, so the people required to get an acr-i card is number one, those on tourist visa here in the Philippines. Normally, when you arrive here, you can extend your visa actually. And then on the second extension, you will be paying for an acr-i card fee, which is valid for a year. Another persons that are required to get an acr-i card are those who have a valid visa here in the Philippines. So expats who have acquired either the 13A spousal visa, 9G visa, the working visa, and all other visas that are here in the Philippines that expats can acquire. The only group of people who have visas here in the Philippines that are not required an acr-i card are those with the SRRV, or the Special Resident Retirees Visa.
Okay. Now, dual citizens are not required.
Dual citizens are not required since you will have your Philippine passport again with you.
Okay, and how about balikbayan?
For balikbayan, normally they're not required, especially if they were born here in the Philippines and they have Filipino blood, since that's the basis of citizenship in the Philippines, which I think is good. So for balikbayan, no need.
Okay, now my understanding is when they provide you the foreigners, when they provide you with the 30, I'll call it a 30-day free visa.
For the 13A spousal visa, when you arrive here in the Philippines, let's say you start the process already, you're given, it's a two-tier process. So you're given a 1-year probationary, and then after the 1 year or 3 months after the 1 year, you can then apply for the 13A permanent visa. Then after that, you become a permanent resident here in the Philippines.
But my understanding is before you go, the first time you go in, you have to go in as a tourist.
Yes, that's correct.
Then you apply for 13A. Now, when you go in as a tourist, they give you what, 30 days?
30 days, yes. But
it's subject to extension.
Yes. When you arrive, let's say 30 days. After the 30 days, you extend it for the first extension is actually 30 days as well. And then on the second extension, you can either get 2 months or 6 months. So while your 13A is on process, which normally takes 3 to 4 months, you need to keep extending your tourist visa.
Okay, but now I thought I heard that 30 days is now being changed to 60 days. Is that approved yet?
No, currently it's still 30 days.
It's still 30. Okay, so let's leave it at that. When does one need to get an exit clearance? First of all, what is an exit clearance and who is required to get that?
So basically, an exit clearance is just to make sure that you are cleared of your tourist visa status here in the Philippines, so that immigration can see that you've been updating your tourist visa on time, because some people actually forget or don't update them. So the exit clearance is basically just to clear you from the immigration requirements that you actually have to do. So those who are required to get an exit clearance are those tourists that have stayed here for at least 6 months. So if you've stayed in the Philippines for 6 months, you are required to get an exit clearance.
And balikbayan and dual citizens are not required any exit clearance.
No, they're not required.
Okay, good. The other question I'm always being asked is, many times, I overstayed, or did not know, or neglected. What are they going to do? What is the issue? What is the problem? What is the penalty?
So if you've overstayed here in the Philippines, let's say you haven't, you've extended the 3-year max, because that's the maximum time a tourist can stay here in the Philippines. So if you've overstayed, or another one would be what is considered overstaying is where you stay here in the Philippines and you haven't updated your tourist visa. So what the normal process for this is, you're going to apply for a motion for consideration. So this one is submitted to the Bureau of Immigration. You will have to write there what are the reasons why you overstayed. A lot of the reasons is they run out of funds to extend their visa. So you will have to write that at the motion for consideration. So once you submit this to the Bureau of Immigration, let's say they approve it, you will have to pay required arrears of around 15 to 25,000, and then you just have to pay for all the months that you have overstayed here in the Philippines. So that is where the calculation for the overstay fees is being based on.
15 to 25,000. So at the most, 25,000. That's $500 at the most.
$500 plus your penalties. So depending on how long you've overstayed, your penalties will be calculated then.
What is the $500 then?
The $500 is just for, I think it's express lane fee, and then your payment for the motion for consideration.
And how much is the penalty usually?
The penalty is, let's just calculate it. So every month is, the base is 2,830, if I'm not mistaken. And then how long you've overstayed, you just multiply that by the months that you've overstayed.
So 2,800 per month. Pesos, right? We're talking pesos. A lot of people go to the Philippines not knowing that they're no longer Filipinos. An example is they became a U.S. citizen. At that point, they lose their Philippine citizenship status. Then they overstay. What is the situation in that case? Is that the same thing as what we just discussed about overstaying, even though they were not aware of it, and they were really former Filipinos?
So the good thing about former Filipinos is, even if you overstayed, you just need to apply for a recognition as Filipino citizen. So if your recognition as Filipino citizen, meaning you will reacquire your Filipino citizenship, the government basically waives all your fees. So all the penalties that you have from overstaying, once your recognition is approved, you don't need to pay for the penalties, because now you have a Philippine passport.
Well, explain to me about the recognition. My understanding of, well, I'm not sure I understand this recognition thing. My understanding is, if you're a dual citizen, you acquired your dual citizenship, you don't need any more recognition, right?
Yes.
You're a dual citizen.
Yes.
Okay. Then, if you are a Filipino, if you are qualified to be a Filipino because you were born with Philippine parents, say, all you needed to do is to file this delayed report of birth because Philippines has no record of your birth. And at that point, you can apply for a passport, right?
Not necessarily. There are certain requirements for you to apply for your dual citizenship. So we had a case where a client was born Filipino. They registered it here in the Philippines, but since he did not register before he reached the age of majority, meaning 18, he still needed to apply for recognition for Filipino citizen. So you really need to apply. If you plan on coming to the Philippines and want your citizenship back, I suggest apply for it right away, because that really need to be recognized as Filipino.
Well, my son was born in the U.S., so he was an American citizen by birth. But at the time of his birth, my wife and I were still Filipino citizens.
Yes.
So all he had to do is to file for delayed registration of birth so that there is a record of his birth, like a birth certificate in the Philippines.
So yeah, that's the important thing that you have to remember in applying for dual citizenship is that at least one Filipino parent has retained his Filipino citizenship. So for example, in your case, you were still both Filipino, so it was easy for your son. There are cases where the Filipino parent is already U.S. citizen, say, and then they were already U.S. citizen when their son or their daughter was born. So that could complicate the application for Filipino citizenship because
Actually, my understanding is it invalidates. They're not qualified to become a citizen because parents are no longer Filipino when they were born.
yes, exactly.
Want to add before we end this meeting?
I guess not so far. I guess next time we can discuss about the different types of visas, so that we can inform your audiences what are the possibilities depending on their merits when they come here to the Philippines. So I can discuss about that extensively.
Okay. Yeah, we can schedule that meeting. Send me an email as to when you want to do that. Then I will not have any questions at that point. It will just be up for you to come up with the process of how to obtain those visas.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much, Blogger Grandpa.
Thank you so much. Really, I'm sorry that we had this difficulty. One of these days, I'll be able to straighten this thing out. I just don't use Zoom too frequently, but sometimes I see the icon, sometimes I don't. So.
Yeah, so practice is perfect. The more we do this, the more it's easier to do this.
Absolutely right. You're correct. So, okay.